So hello and welcome to today's podcast. My name is Peter Pinter. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at CyberGRX, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined today by special guest David Wilson, who is the Director of Compliance Assurance at ACI Worldwide. David, welcome to our show today. This is not our first podcast with you, but for those that don't know you, maybe I can introduce you as a risk management and compliance professional with more than a decade of experience in developing robust risk compliance and audit assurance programs. With efficiency as a primary goal, your focus centers on strategic program development, industry alignment, and collaboration as methods to demonstrate effective risk management. And I am delighted to remind our audience that you have received the accolade from our Cyber Risk Nation, the award of Thought Leader of the Year. So many congratulations to you, David, for that. And from my experience of working with you, very well justified. But I thought we could maybe start today just by opening that up a second and ask you what does it mean to be a thought leader? And what do you value about that? What do you consider to be your engagement, your role as a thought leader in our industry today, David?
Well, thank you for that award. I really appreciate that. I think maybe I got the award because I'm just a thought speaker instead of a thought leader. I think maybe I just speak my mind more than most people, and maybe people value that. I hope so. So I really, for me, it means that that hopefully the unfiltered thoughts and maybe some frustrations I share with the challenges we face in the risk management world, hopefully that's helpful to other people. That I think I see the challenges we face as not just something we see inside of ACI, and I don't want to keep it all to myself and think that if I solve it for me, it gives me a great competitive advantage over others. I mean, ultimately, I'm doing the same thing that every other organization is doing. And I don't see there being any negative side to sharing that with other people, because our ultimate collective goal is risk management, which helps my customers as much as it helps my competitors' customers. And so, yes, we want a competitive advantage and we want to do things the best, but at the same time, there's not a lot of secrets held in the world of third-party risk management, as an example. This is something that we should all be doing well, because we have the same directives to do those things and the same consumers that we want to protect while we do that, as well as myself. I'm a consumer of my own company's products. So I want that to be something that we can share. And I'm lucky to work in, I think, a part of the industry that allows me to do that and speak my mind, and hopefully others find it valuable as well.
That's very well said, David. That tells us why you've been named a Thought Leader of the Year, because I couldn't agree more with your thesis, which is that collaboration benefits everybody. And one of the reasons that we created Cyber Risk Nation was to create that community where people could come together and openly and confidentially express opinions, views, and data where necessary in order to facilitate the improvement of everyone's risk management posture. And to that end, David, it might help our audience to hear a little bit more about your organization and the nature of the role that you have. And that will provide some context for us as we start to get into understanding a little bit more about the challenges that your team face and how you go about addressing those using best practices today.
Yeah, I can give you a quick rundown. I work for ACI Worldwide. I direct our compliance assurance team, and we work in the payment space. We do a lot of different things in that realm, but ultimately, my team's goal is to facilitate all incoming audits that are maybe coming from customers, from schemes, some regulators, and even through some industry standards like ISO 27001. So we facilitate a lot of those, and that's our core business. There's some other things we do as well, but that's really where my expertise comes from. We're on the side of the table that's getting audited, or we are the third party in most cases. When you think about third-party risk management, we have another team that performs third-party risk management of our vendors and our partners. But for my team specifically, we're on the receiving end of those that are coming from our customers. And it gives us a pretty good idea of what the industry is looking for, because we're receiving that question set from a lot of different customers. And we see a lot of them have the same sets, and then a few have their own tweaks to that. So it helps us kind of build a program that is designed to respond to them collectively.
And roughly what kind of volume are we talking about here, David, without giving away any proprietary information?
Yeah, so for us, we're receiving probably around 500 assessments a year. And that's we kind of like to say we get one a day. So we're not in the largest, we're not the largest organization. There's some out there that get probably a whole lot more than we do, and there's some that get less. But for my team, we kind of run about one assessment a day. And then there's, when you think about standards and scheme audits, those kind of get piled on top. So kind of takes us to about 500 or a little bit less annually.
Awesome. Well, let's get into a little bit of the challenges that are facing your team or organization, because I dare say, to your point earlier, they're not unique to you, but it would be helpful for our audience to hear a little bit more about what specifically has caused you to think about making changes or evolving your third-party risk management program and where you're putting your priorities today. So maybe just to start us out, what are kind of the key challenges that your team is facing today?
I would say that the biggest challenge is that most assessments are asking, I would say 90% of the questions that we get or the asks that come from customers are the same thing from one customer to the next. So we want to be able to respond to that in a consistent manner while not losing that customer satisfaction special touch for each customer. But also we don't want to duplicate our efforts all the time. And so I think customers recognize that, and a lot of times they're willing to work with us in the ways that we respond. But the biggest challenge is that we have to provide almost the same information for all of those 300 to 500 assessments that we get a year.
And I dare say those comments would be echoed by anyone in your role across the industry today. I know that you've made a number of really interesting innovations happen inside of your organization. I'm wondering if we can go back to when you felt there was a defining moment in which you knew that the way that you've been doing things up until now, or maybe the way the team had been doing things up until then, that you needed to make some adjustments in your TPRM program. Can you remember back to what were kind of the key, defining moments, if you will, around the change that you needed to bring into play?
So I think that actually goes back to prior to my work with ACI. I worked for a company previously located in Jacksonville, Florida, that worked in the credit industry space, and we dealt with a lot of the same things that I do today. But during my experience there, around the time that I was leaving there, that program was starting to implement some collaborative assessments where they would allow multiple customers to assess them all at one time based on an agenda that all of the external parties had agreed to in advance. And so we started to see that there was a lot of advantage in some type of collaboration amongst those customers who were all asking the same thing. If they had their own one-off questions, we would take that aside. So if there was some proprietary conversations that need to happen, we would allow that. So I've taken a lot of that into ACI and looked for models that kind of do that for me. And being that we're on the receiving end of the assessments, CyberGRX is one that provides that exchange and that connection to many of our existing customers. And so some of them are already utilizing CyberGRX and asking us for that report that we can give to all of them. And those that aren't familiar with it, we're proactively sharing it with them just to help encourage that collaboration. It doesn't always, it's not always well received when we say, well, we know you want us to do this, but take a look at CyberGRX instead. The first pass at that, sometimes we have to kind of explain the benefits of it and the value. But I think over a couple of year cycle, when those customers start to benefit from the contents and the collaboration, it's a lot easier to adopt it. And so that's kind of been an evolution for me. But within ACI, we realized once we were starting to really be overwhelmed by a significant number of assessments that we needed to find a strategy to help our customers adopt collaborative models. They still have to perform their due diligence. We can't just say, go over there and do it this way and expect that they're going to say, yeah, we'll do what you want. That's not what's going to happen. That's kind of backwards. We expect them to tell us what they want. And we've got to come to some common ground on the ways to make that work for both of us. And this is one of the models that helps with that.
Yeah, love that. And that sounds like you were bringing with you experience from a prior employer, that you took that into the situation, you took it to a new level. I'm wondering, what kind of challenges did you face with your new organization as you were seeking to introduce what was probably quite a substantially new way of thinking about how to address this business problem? Can you tell us a little bit about the transformation process and maybe what were the biggest challenges as you were trying to move your organization forwards?
Yeah, so there were some challenges. I think the hardest part for us was to socialize the concept internally when so many times the teams that we need to participate or respond in an audit that's coming from our customers, they see Cyber GRX as just another audit. And they're like, how are you going through another audit? Why do I have to do this again? So, and understandably, they've got day jobs. The last thing they want to do is sit in another audit. So that's a bit of a challenge. But at the same time, some of that was solved for me because several of our customers came to us and said within the same year or same 18 months and said, we want you to use Cyber GRX. And we initially pushed back, and our pushback was mostly because it's just another audit. We don't have a relationship with Cyber GRX. Why would we share information with a company that we don't do business with? And so once we saw multiple customers asking about it, it made that internal sell a lot easier. And Cyber GRX is one of a few different models that we use. And it's nice that they weren't significantly different in the way they approached us. And so we had already started the conversation in another realm and brought Cyber GRX into it. And so I would say it was mutually beneficial, or it was kind of sold to us from our customers, but then also helped solve a problem internally. And if I look back now, it's been a few years now, I haven't exactly, but I could probably quantify the number of SMEs I don't have to talk to now because we do one audit that satisfies many rather than bringing them in and talking to them about the same thing every time. So there is tangible value there for not just my team in being able to respond to customers quickly, but also in the resource, the resources that have to participate and respond in multiple rounds of emails, and then potentially even in interviews with customers. A lot of that is solved by these types of collaborative models.
That sounds like that's been massively impactful, and not only driving efficiency within your own team, but also enabling the business to be able to focus on other things and move their agendas forwards as well, which makes you a great business partner to your colleagues across the business. I love that, complete once, share many times model. It is a force multiplier. We've had other customers say to us, this is the game changer for us. I think our most prolific third party today has shared somewhere north of 900 times their Cyber GRX assessment. And that just seems like an efficient model. And, I love the fact that you had customers coming to you saying, hey, we'd love you to use it. It probably helped that internal conversation as well. Did you keep track of any specific metrics or business outcomes that were pertinent to this change that you brought about, David? How do you measure success in your own organization? How do you characterize that to other people?
Yeah, so I think the best way that I can do that, I don't have very detailed metrics on how many assessments we would have gone through had we not participated with Cyber GRX, but the way we look at it is more in the time to respond to a customer, from the day they send us the request to the day that we satisfy that request. And a few years ago, I would say that our customers actually, probably just a little over a year ago, our customers were still waiting several weeks to get a meaningful response from us. We would provide an initial package that had some questionnaire answers. We provide our external audit reports that are applicable to them, and that helps a little bit, but it doesn't really help them do their full due diligence. And so we now are looking at about a week or 2 weeks for full turnaround for a good portion of those assessments. I would say there's some that are more extensive, and we'll always have those to some degree. But to go from 6 to 8 weeks of wait time for a customer to the point where some customers are like, are you guys just not paying attention to our requests? And I don't think that they ever got that impression, but at some point they have to ask. They're being asked by their senior leaders, why is your vendor not responding? And we were really dealing with a volume issue. And we've done some other things like added some resources and changed some other business processes that help. But this has been a big part of that as well, in helping us to better understand how to respond and to help to speed that up. The efficiency has made a big difference for us.
Love that. And the fact that it's so customer focused and customer centric speaks even more volumes, really, as to the impact that you've been able to have. I think about all your business stakeholders who are caring about bringing on board those new vendors, trying to accelerate their part of the business. And clearly, by focusing on satisfying that need and shortening that gap, it's been a force multiplier, as we said earlier on. David, thank you so much for coming to share your experiences with us today. May I congratulate you again on being Cyber Risk Nation's Thought Leader of the Year 2023. And I look forward to a follow-up conversation with you to hear about the next stage of evolution inside of ACI Worldwide going forwards. Thanks so much, David, and have a great
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Take care.
All right, you too. Have a great one. Bye.